So Port Priority 8 took place over this weekend, and it just might have been the most stacked international Smash Bros. Tournament we've ever seen. Just take a look at who got 17th place. MK Leo, Spargo, Beast Mode Paul, Gluttony, Meister, DeBuzz, SkyJ, and Ashimo. With MK Leo, Spargo, and Gluttony all being eliminated before top 16, you just know this had to be one of the toughest tournaments of all time. So let's take a look at all of the breakout performances and big stories that happened from Port Priority 8, one of the best tournaments of the year so far. First, we have to talk about the big weekend for Sonic. But not Sonic's, not just yet, we'll get to him in a little bit. Right now we're going to talk about Ken. Ken had a huge weekend as he not only made it to the top 4 as the 14th seed, but he secured a spot for himself in the Watch the Throne Invitational, which will be happening later this year. By far, his most impressive victory of the tournament came in winners against Spargo. Down a stock in Game 5, it looked like Ken was in trouble, but he went untouched for the next 45 seconds to even things out, and eventually he grinded out the W. Ken's clutch factor is undeniable. He survived one kill screen and a very high pyro up air not long before that had him pixels away from the blast zone. But even with that, he was able to gather himself and find the game-winning back air to take the set. In his path, Ken also gathered wins on Kanavi, as well as 2 of the top Marios in attendance, Kurama and Dark Wizzy. Another impressive run for one of the game's longest standing veterans. Now Ken also got first at Battle of BC last year, so it seems like Ken just enjoys competing in the Pacific Northwest. And then, of course, there's Sonic's. Somehow, despite all of the top 8s that you've seen him in, he's never gotten a chance to play against Aquila or Mia. Now those 2 were really the last big wins that Sonic's needed to say he could beat anyone on the planet. And this weekend, he got that opportunity. So it's safe to say Sonic's made a statement with his top 8 performance. 3-1 Mia to not only be Mia's first losses of the entire tournament, but to make Grand Finals winner side, and then recovered from a 3-1 loss in the first set of Grands to 3-1 Mia back in the reset to take the trophy. With those wins under his belt, Sonic's has his best case yet to say that he is the best in the world. Is his 2023 better than Aquila's? No, it's not really that close. Aquila has only missed Grand Finals 1 time since March, and that was at this tournament where he got 3rd. Aquila's consistency is simply unmatched in a game where consistency feels impossible. But outside of his 25th at Super Smash Con, Sonic's results since summer have been ridiculous. First at Gommel with wins over Spargo, Leo, and Zamba. Second at Let's Make Moves Miami, losing only to Spargo and getting wins on DeBuzz, Riddles, and Aaron. And now the biggest win of his life at Port Priority 8, getting first. And at this point, it's up to the rest of the world to stop Sonic's. The biggest breakout star of the weekend was unquestionably Kanavi, who let the world know that it's not just Light who's carrying Fox. If you were paying attention at Kaguribi 11, Kanavi placed 5th, getting wins over Kameme, AIM, and Shuton. But a player like him is always tough for the seeders. How do you seed a player who's making their first appearance in North America? The answer was 27th, and accounting for all the talent worldwide that was going to Port, it's pretty justified. But that meant he would get a huge test early in the bracket, and that test came in top 32 against none other than Tweak. What better way to see just how real this Fox is than against Tweak? He's a Fox slayer. Light is the only Fox who can beat him in these matchups. And honestly, that's how it looked for the first 2 games. Kanavi was dealing damage but couldn't find kills, and Tweak ran away with both of these games. But then the jacket came off. And you know how it is with Fox players. Kanavi ended Game 3 with a ridiculous banana conversion in an up smash, and then started Game 4 with a melee-esque shine spike to take Tweak's first stock within the first 10 seconds. When Kanavi opened Game 5 with one of the most ridiculous stretcher kills you'll ever see, it looked like he was going to run away with it. But Tweak fought back and forced a last stock, last hit situation. And that's where Kanavi absolutely clutched up. And the clutch plays did not stop there. Even though it looked like MK Leo had plot armor for chunks of this set, Kanavi was able to come back from down 2-1 to win a Game 5 set over Ultimate's king of Game 5s. And this wasn't just the Game 5. This was a last stock, last hit Game 5 against the greatest to ever do it. Unfortunately, Ken got Kanavi 3-0 to end his winner's run, but that was not it for Japan's greatest fox. Kanavi kept it going with a win over Pocket, formerly known as Onan, to secure his spot in Port Priority's top 8. It's the kind of run that raised the question that I didn't think we'd be asking anytime soon. Is a fox other than Light the best fox in the world right now? And thankfully, Kanavi's next set would provide us with the perfect answer to this question. Light was pushed really hard in this bracket. He was taking a Game 5 in 3 straight sets and winners. First against AC, then against Shattuck, and finally against Hurt. He fell to Mia in winner's quarters, but struck back against Tweak, ending his 4-set loser's run to lock in his top 8 spot. This setup was probably the highest level Fox Ditto we've ever seen in Ultimate. For so long, it had just been Light. What came of it was one of the best sets of the entire year. These two were so evenly matched and played such high octane Smash for all 5 games. Kanavi had already done it against Leo and Tweak, but he couldn't pull off the clutch Game 5 for a 3rd time. Light took an early lead and ran away with all of the momentum. After one final Nair up smash, Light answered the question. He is the best fox in the world. Light was America's last hope, and after a rough run at Let's Make Moves Miami, Light decided to remind everybody that he is still America's best. However, immediately after defeating Kanavi, fell 3-1 to Akala in losers quarterfinals. Now, me personally, from watching Light play, there are a lot of improvements I think that Light could do against Steve moving forward. So even though this performance wasn't anything that Light wanted, I know moving forward, Light will do way better in this matchup, not only against Steve, but against Akala himself. Sonics may have won and defended North America, but Japan left this tournament looking like the strongest region yet again. Winners quarterfinals had 5 out of the 8 players being Japanese. Now this didn't just include Akala and Mia, 2 of the best players in the entire world, but also Kanavi and Ken, who we did talk about, but nobody in the entire top 32 outplaced expectations more than Umeki. If you've been around for a while, you probably know of Umeki. Not only is he a Tio, you know the Ume, part of Umebura? Yeah, that stands for Umeki. But he is one of the best Japanese Peach players since Smash 4. Umeki's the kind of player you'd always expect to see in the final day playing, but in the top 8, it's been a little harder for him to reach. He placed 3rd at Umebura SP6 in 2019, his best pre-pandemic performance. Since the return to offline play, Umeki had just 2 top 8s at tournaments of 400 or more players. 7th place finishes at Kagaribi 8 and Kowloon 5. Now, Umeki's biggest win this weekend came over Zamba, but Umeki also got wins over SkyJ and Luis before falling to Akala in a Game 5 loss in winners quarterfinals. In losers, he took out Hurt to qualify for top 8, where his reward was another Ditto in losers round 1 top 8 against Mudace. Mudace was on a crazy run himself. After an early loss to Ashimo, Mudace won 5 sets in a row, taking out Beastly, Apollo Kage, Riddles, and Cola. In order to get his highest placing since 2019, Umeki would have to prove that Daisy is better than Peach. And he did just that. It was, just like the Kanavi and Light set, incredibly competitive and back and forth. Umeki was facing a huge deficit in Game 5, down nearly a full stock to Mute, who might just be the hardest player to beat in these kinds of situations in the entire world. But he grinded it all the way back and was able to finish the comeback with a perfectly placed neutral B, a move that won games for Umeki over and over again this weekend. Like Light, he would also fall at the 5th place, but this was one of the best weekends of Umeki's Smash career, and for how long he's been competing, you know that's saying something. That covers the big storylines from the top 8, but you know, with 710 entrants, there's a lot more that we could talk about. So before we wrap up, let's cover some of the other stories that happened during Port Priority 8. Now, sad to say, it was a rough weekend for Mexico. Leo, Spargo, Meister, and SkyJ were all eliminated at 17th place. Meister and SkyJ both performed exactly as seeded, but obviously these are disappointing results for Leo and especially Spargo, who lost in devastating fashion. He dropped the Game 5 to Ken despite 2 near-killing blows, and he lost his last stock to Riddles at literally 0%, thanks to the absurd angle on Kazuya's Gates of Hell. Now, of course, we all know Spargo is going to bounce back, but it goes to show just how hard it is to be consistent in this game, that even somebody who regularly looks like the best player in the world can experience these struggles too. On a brighter note, Skinny the Pooh had the highest profile upset last month when he 3-0'd MK Leo at Rise and Grind. Port was his first major since then, and of course there's going to be a spotlight following a huge upset like that. And how did he respond? Oh, you know, just by upsetting Shuton in a Game 5 against his Pyra and Mithra. Now that would be the end of Skinny's run, falling to Pocket and Show, veteran Meta Knight and also nowadays Game & Watch player, to cement Skinny at 33rd place. But after this, you better believe any top player who sees Skinny the Pooh in their path is going to be shaking in their boots. Imagine saying that a couple months ago. Now, Cola's return from hibernation continues to go better than anyone expected. He followed up his 5th place at Let's Make Moves Miami with a 9th place this weekend, including a win over DeBuzz and losses to Mutace and Sonics. Not bad at all. His dominance over DeBuzz is getting kind of ridiculous, with the set count being 9-2 in Cola's favor. Cola also stopped Beast Mode Paul's winners bracket run, but that did not stop the hero player from picking up an upset win against Gluttony. Even after that, he wasn't done with Europe. In losers, he took out Andres FN and Siski. Paul's upset over Gluttony was one of the biggest of the weekend, by upset factor of 8, and his total upset factor of 12 from these European upsets gave him the highest of the weekend, higher even than Kaninabe's 9. Now, this doesn't mean everything was rough for Europe. Tarek was already having a great weekend heading into Sunday, as he was announced as a replacement for Proto Bonham at Watch of the Throne. After a near miss against Pocket, a Game 5 loss in winners, Tarek looked like he was in big trouble. He was in Shuton's path after the upset we just talked about at the hands of Skinny the Pooh. And if you have any idea about Europe's history against Olimar, you probably thought his run was as good as over. But in a Game 5 stunner, Tarek did the impossible, taking a sledgehammer to the Olimar vs EU allegations. He'd go down to an unfortunate EU team kill against Siski for 33rd, but given the context, the Shuton upset has got to be one of the biggest wins of his career. Obviously, with as much incredible talent as there was this weekend, there are some stories that I couldn't cover. Let me know in the comments if there was anything else that stood out to you that happened over this weekend. Hopefully, if you missed the tournament or you just wanted to relive some of the action from this weekend, this recap was good enough for you. And of course, if you're into this kind of content, let me know by liking and subscribing, and I'll see you with more content after the next major.